Good luck to all. First of all, Mazel Tov to Kenny and to Ari. Mitzvah Shem, we shall share smachot. Okay, we're in the middle of an interesting sugya, and the way we got into the sugya is also very interesting. So Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon said in the Mishnah that an androgynous is someone who has both simanim of a male and a female, is a zachar. So therefore, it'd be mekadesh and isha. Mekadesh and isha, you'd have to give a get. She would be mekudeshes. Regarding eating truma, if he's a kayin androgynous, he would feed his wife truma. But and said Reish Lakish, you would feed truma, but you wouldn't feed the chazav v'shaik. The chazav v'shaik is the matnas kahuna of the shlamim that goes to a kayin, the chest and the right back foot. So you would feed truma, but you wouldn't feed what? You would not feed chazav v'shaik because it's a suffix what, whether it's a male or a female. And if it's a female, you can't feed. Fred the Gemara, if Rabbi Reish Lakish is mesupik, whether it's a male or a female, why can you feed truma? Why could you go ahead and feed truma? So he said, well, it's speaking which truma de rabbanon bisman hazeh. Bisman hazeh, truma is the rabbanon, and therefore will be makel and allow the suffix of the androgynous to feel truma. Masha'en kein chazav v'shaik, which is clearly the raisa and bisman habayis, that the androgynous would not be able to feed the nekavis in his family, would not be able to feed it. If the kaddish a woman, he would not be able to feed her. That was the machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Again, the undermining the svara Rabbi Yochanan, it's a zachar. Reish Lakish, it is a suffix. We went ahead and we proved that l'chayra like Reish Lakish that truma bismana says the rabbanon from a case of an eagle of the vela. The vela that got mixed in truma. Usually truma, the ratio is 1 to 100, and normally, says Reish Lakish, you'd have a problem. If it was the raisa, you would not be able to go ahead and say that eagle truma is batal in 100 to 1 because it's a davar chashiv, and something that's a davar chashiv is afilu be'elef, even 1,000 is not batal. So when you say it's batal, there must be a loophole. What's the loophole? That truma bisman hazeh, the eagle of truma that falls in, the rabbanon will be mevatel. Because if it wasn't for the rabbanon, you won't be able to mevatel because of being a davar chashiv. Rabbi Yochanan says it's the raisa and it could be mevatel because it's not a davar chashiv. Because the only thing that's considered a davar chashiv are the 6 or 7 specific things that the Gemara mentioned. The money badon and the perach and so on, because only those 7 things are considered a davar chashiv. Reish Lakish is more broad in his interpretation. Call anything that is sold b'minyan, anything that's sold by counting shows it's chashivas, because you don't sell it by estimation, you sell it by counting, is a davar chashiv. Okay, we asked from a case of chatichos, and we said that we gave 2 cases of chatichos, a piece of you have a piece of chatas that got mixed in with toiros. One piece of tmeya got mixed in with toiros. We said that we said that it's bottle. We said that it's bottle. However, the toiros get mixed in, it's not bottle. If toiros and toiros, a piece of chatas gets mixed in with chulin, it's what it is. It's not bottle. So those are 2 cases that we have to focus on: the tmeya case and the tar case. We had a kasha on Reish Lakish. Why, if it's a davar chashiv by the tmeya case, why is it batal? It should not be batal. It's a davar chashiv, right? Bishlei malay Rabbi Yochanan, and I'll tell you why it's batal, because it's not a davar chashiv. The seifa, it's not batal. That's because it's a davar mu'at. In other words, it's a hefsid mu'at. Since it's speaking about tahar, just sell it to a kohen. Give it to the kohen. Let the kohen eat it. So for hefsid mu'at, we're not going to go ahead and come on to bittul. But in a chinami, it's not a davar chashiv. But what you Reish Lakish, that a piece of meat is a davar chashiv, this piece of chatas. Why in the case of tmeya tahara, why is it batal? So we answered it's speaking b'ni mucha. It's speaking where it is not a davar chashiv because it's melted. Since it's melted, it's not a davar chashiv, therefore it is batal. Okay. We asked the question, and Rabbi Yehuda said that it's not batal. Why is it not batal if it's nibuach? And we answered Rabbi Yehuda goes to his according to Shita that min b'minoi, species and a species alike is not batal. And that's where we're holding right now. So just let's focus on the last 2 cases. The case of the chatas that was tameh that got mixed in with chatas tahiros, or the chatas tahira that got mixed in with chulin. Reisha, it's batal. Seifa, it's not batal. Says the Gemara. 2 lines down, Pei Beis Amid Aleph. Avaloi nimuchamai. If you're telling me in the first case by tame, if it wasn't nimuach, if it wasn't melted, loy sa'le, then what? It would not be bottle. That was Reish Lakish's teretz. The reason why it's bottle is because it's not a davar chashiv anymore. Mashenke, if it wasn't nimuach melted, it would be a davar chashiv and it would be bottle. So now, we've said this many times. The Gemara will never leave a case to tell me a chiddush if you can tell me a chiddush in that case. Don't create a new case if you can tell me the chiddush in the existing case. So our existing case is to make it tahira. You said that it's bottle. You jump to the case of tahar to tell me it's not bottle. I could tell me in the case of tameh that it's not bottle. So why would you have to go jump to a new case? Says the Gemara, Adetoni avachaticha shel chatas tahira. Shenis arva b'meya chaticha shel chulin tahira, the latter case. And you tell me that it's not bottle. Why don't you make a chilik in the first case by tameya getting mixed in with the hayra? That it is bottle. That's b'sheni mucha when it's melted and it's not a davar chashiv, therefore it's bottle. But if it was intact, it wasn't melted, and it would be a davar chashiv loy saleh. Then it wouldn't be bottle. So why jump to create a new case to tell me of that it's not bottle if you can tell me that chiddush in the first case itself? Gemara always asks this kasha. It's a common kasha. But don't jump to a new case to tell me a chiddush that you could tell me in the same case. So again, what's your kiddush? Case number one, bittul. Case number two, not bittul. If you could tell me in case number one, both bittul and not bittul, why do you jump to a new case? And for Gemara, I'll tell you why you jump to a new case. It's a bigger chiddush to tell me in a case of tahar that it's not bottle than to tell me a case of tahar and tami that it's not bottle. Rashi points out from a Mishnah in Trumas that when you have truma tahira that gets mixed in with chulin tahira, it's bottle. It's bottle. But Mashenke we have machloikis by whether it's tamei and tahor, whether it's bottle or not, machlokes beisham and beis hillel. So we see from that Mishnah in Truma that tahira tahira is bottle. So it's a bigger chiddush over here to tell me by chatichos that tahor and tahor is not bottle. That's a big chiddush over here. Now, Reish Lakish made a chilik between the reisha and the seifa, right? He said the reisha it's speaking about nimucha, it's speaking about it's melted, and nonetheless, melted in the reisha it's bottle, melted in the seifa it's not bottle. Why? If it's not a davar chashiv like Reish Lakish, it shouldn't be bottle. Guys, listen outside. Bishleim like Rabbi Yochanan, that it's not a davar chashiv. We have a hesber to explain. The reason it's not bottle in case one, it's not a davar chashiv. Why should we mevatel it? The reason why it's bottle in case one is because it's not a davar chashiv. The reason why it's bottle in case it's not bottle in case number two is because since it's mutter to a kayin, it's for the small hefzer that's fitted to a kayin. But like you Reish Lakish, that who says it's a davar chashiv, and therefore it should not be bottle, and therefore we had to say it's speaking where it's melted and it is bottle. Why in case number one by Tamei is bottle, and why by case number two tahar it's not bottle? That's the question. Good. Freding Marakasha. Reish Lakish. Maishna Reisha, the case of the Tamei getting mixed with the tahar, that it's not bottle, it is bottle. Umaishna Seifa, where it's also nimucha, it's also melted, and it's not bottle. So Rav Shisha Be'Yavidi, Reisha betumas mashkin de Rabbanon, Seifa de Araisa. Okay, this Reisha is speaking about the tumah that's there is a tumah de Rabbanon, and therefore, since it's a tumah de Rabbanon, we'll be mevatel. What's the tumah de Rabbanon? Okay, let's go back to Masech the Shabbos a long time ago. Again, we go through these ideas all the time. Mid Araisa, a kli can be mitama adam b'kelim. A kli can be mitama oichelu mashka, right? But it can't be mitama adam b'kelim. Let's say a kli becomes tamei, it becomes a rishon l'tumah, it can be mitama. An avad tumah can be mitama adam b'kelim. A kli that touches tumah is a rishon, can only mitama oichelu mashka, not food. A kli cannot be mikabel tumah from a rishon. It only can be mikabel tumah from an avad tumah, because a rishon can only be mitama oichelu mashka. The chacham made a gezerah because of mashka hazov or mashka sheretz, that since there does exist mashka that's an avato that could be mitama kli. What is that? A zov is a avatuma, and his liquid is an avatuma, and an avatuma can be mitama kli. So they made a gezerah that a liquid that touches the kli makes it what tame. If that kli now touches the chaticha, it makes that tame. But that's only tumah d'Rabbanan. Thus, since the tumah was only transmitted by a rabbinical tumah, therefore by nemucha it's tame. Masha'enkin in the sefer where there's no tumah, which just what the raisa, therefore it's not bottle. That's the chilik. That's the chilik Reish Lakish. Nachamol. Amrav Shisha Ber Davidi, the ratio will be said that it's bottle is speaking between mashkin d'Rabbanan. Since it's d'Rabbanan, will be mavatalit. The sefer, which is speaking about taharatic piece of chatas with taharatic chulin, the raisa. Okay, now Fred Gemara kasha. Again, they're going to have the same kasha. If you could tell me the chiddush of in the first case, why jump to a new case? Aval tumas sheretz mai. Let's say the piece of meat contracted tumah from a sheretz, not from a kli, and it'll be tumah deraisa. Then you'd say loy saleh. Then you'd say what? That it's not bottle. So at the Tani Seifa, Aval chaticha shel chatas tahira shenes avra b'meya chaticha shel chulin tahirais loy saleh. Then it's not bottle. Case number 2. Niflug v'nisli b'dida. You could have told me the chiddush in the first case. That it's bottle, that's betumis mashkin drabanan. Aval betumis sheretz loy, then what? It's not bottle. So why did you jump to a new case? Same teretz, tahira b'tahira, or deflate. To tell me the chiddush of tahira is a bigger chiddush than to tell me tahira b'tameya. Okay? So that's the one's teretz to machalik between Reish Lakish, between the Reisha and the Seifa. The Reisha that said that it's a bottle is speaking to the Rabbanan. The Seifa is speaking to the Raisa. Rava Amar, another teretz. Reisha iser lav, Seifa iser kares. Now the Reisha is speaking where the piece of meat is tameh. What happens if a person eats it? Whether the person's tameh or tahar, the person is not going to be mechayiv kares. It's only a lav. Because the meat is tameh, not the person. The meat is tameh. If the meat is tameh, it's only a lav. Mashenki in the sefer was everything tahar. You possibly could come to an issa deraisa if he's tameh and eats it. So therefore, we're more machmer in the sefer than we are in the reisha. Rabbi Amar reisha issa lav because it's speaking where it's tameh. Sefer issa kares, and the sefer would be what an issa kares. Fred the Gemara about Rabbi Huda Amar. Rabbi is of the opinion. We'll see later on in the Masechta. Called bidaraisa, anything that's a din daraisa, loishna issa lav, loishna issa karis. So it says kasha, inachinami, it's kasha. The Rabbanan will be geyser in any case. If it's a lav or if it's a karis, the Rabbanan will be geyser. Therefore, this chilik is shver, the chilik of Rabbah. So we have the chilik of Rav Shisha. It's speaking by tumah Rabbanan, tumah daraisa. Okay. Ravashi gives a third teretz. Seifa mishum dahabi leidava sheish lamatirin. This chulin that gets mixed with chatas is davar shleish matirin because it's mutter to a kohen. Now, guys, what's the classic case of davar shleish matirin? Is Masech the Beitza. Beitza shnol the biyantif. It gets mixed together. I feel about a bottle. You know why? Because only today is it asa. Tomorrow it's going to be mutter. It's a davar. It's something sheyesh matirin that will have a time later on that it'll be mutter. So over here we want to say that now it's aser. Now it'll be mutter to a kohen. But this l'chayra doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the Gemara shlugs it right away. Says the Gemara, Seif mishum dahavi davish yesh matirin. In the Reisha, it's tamei, no one could eat it. But the Seif, it's chulin, a kain could eat it. Says the Gemara, chol davish yesh matirin, I feel belaflei bottle. Fred the Gemara, v'hoder Ravashi bedusahi. This Ravashi is either bedusa, it's either a joke, or berusa, it's an outside teretz. It's not true. Laman, who is it mutter to? Ila kayin mishra shari. Guys, davish yesh matirin means now it's aser, and then it will be mutter. So the kohen, it's never not going to be mutter. It's mutter now. He could eat it right now. He doesn't have to wait for anything. And the Yisrael will never be able to eat it. He can never eat a chatos, right? So l'chayra, Rav Ashi's teretz is teretz bedusa. It's not a correct teretz. And therefore, the teretz that seems to have held water is the chilik, like Reish Lakish, the Seif, or the Reish is speaking about Tumah Rabbanon. Since it's Tumah Rabbanon, and Nimucha will be Mekel and say that what? That it's Batal. The Seif, which is speaking about what? Chatos, which is the Raisa, then what? Chatos, that's not Tumah, but Tumah the Raisa, then what? It's Tar, and completely, we will go be Machmir and say that what? It's not Batal. Okay. Now, we have this whole sugya has been predicated on Rabbi Yossi holding that Truma bisman hazeh is the raisa, right? And therefore, we go through it, guys, right? If we allow the androgynous, who is a kohen, to feed his wife, the Bas Yisrael, Truma, if we allow him to go ahead and feed Truma, right, then it's the Raisa. It must be that it's the Raisa. Why? Because we're going to let him feed even the Chaz of a Shaykh. So once you allow to feed Chaz of a Shaykh, is a raya that will view the androgynous as a Zachar. Since he's a Zachar, there's no difference in the Truma. Only Reish Lakish had to make that chiluk, because Reish Lakish said we don't feed him the Chaz of a Shaykh. Since we don't feed him the Chaz of a Shaykh, it must be Truma is Darbanan, because we need a chiluk between Truma and the Chaz of a Shaykh. But like Rabbi Yochanan, that both eats, so he can hold Truma as manazeh is their Raisa. Okay? So the Gemara is questioning that. So we answered up the questions on Reish Lakish. Now we're going back to analyze that statement of what? Of Rabbi Yochanan, that if you could eat, the androgynous can feed what? Chaz b'shoik, he could feed Truma, and eat the Truma was even the Raisa. For some Rabbi Yochanan, Truma is manazeh the Raisa v'tanya. Listen to this case. Shtei kupos, you have two boxes. Acha shel chulin, v'acha shel Truma. You have two boxes. One is of chulin and one is of Truma. Ulefneim shtei sayin, and in front of the two boxes are two measures, a sa each. Acha shel chulin v'acha shel Truma. Now, v'naflu elu b'toich elu. They both fall in. Now, there's two possibilities. Either the chulin fell into the chulin and the Truma fell into the Truma, or they got mixed together. Hari elu mutarim. They're mutar to eat. Now, for a kohen to mutar to eat, right? That is not a chiddush. Mutar means the one that was chulin would be mutar to the zar. Shani omer Truma l'toich Truma nafla, and the chulin mitoich chulin naflu. So hari elu mutarim. That will be, the kohen could eat both of them, and the zar would be able to eat the chulin one, because I won't say 50-50, I'll say that what? That, okay. Reish Lakish, for who sherabu chulin ala Truma. You know when I say this? I say that if there's more than the proportion of chulin to Truma is more than, it's 100 to 1. It's 100 to 1. So guys, either way, watch. If the chulin fell in the chulin, and the Truma fell in the Truma, no problem whatsoever. And even if the Truma fell into the Chulin, I have enough in the Chulin to go ahead and nullify to mevatel the Truma. So Mimanav Shach, I'm covered. That's Reish Lakish. Mimanav Shach, I'm covered. Mimanav Shach, I'm covered. Either way, good. If it's Chulin, great. And even if it's Truma Chulin, I have enough to nullify it to mevatel it. That's what Reish Lakish says. However, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Afal Pisha Loi Rabu Chulin ala Truma. Even if you do not have the ratio of Truma to nullify the Chulin, you would be able to eat it. Now, Bishleim Reish Lakish Kasava B'derabana Nami Ribuya who to be in. In order to go ahead, he has Truma Bismana says the Rabbanon, and since Truma is the Rabbanon, but you still need a roiv, you still need a majority, so you need 100 to 1. El Rabbi Yochanan Kasha. Like Rabbi Yochanan, it's shver. In other words, Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan's Truma is manazeh as the Raisa. So where's your kula over here, guys? Rabbi Yochanan says Bishleim says the Rabbanon. I would say the following: when it comes to the Rabbanon, you would not need a roiv. You would not need 100 to 1. So Mimanav Shach. If it's chulin, great, and even if it's Truma, since it's the Rabbanon, I wouldn't need a roiv. But if you're telling me Rabbi Yochanan holds Truma bismana says the Raisa. In the Raisa, of course, you need 100 to 1. So why would Rabbi Yochanan allow you, in this case over here, allow you to eat it? That's the kasha. One more time. Rabbi Yochanan is saying, guys, that Truma is the Raisa, because he allows what? The androgynous to feed his wife the chaz of a shaykh. And he allows his androgynous to feed the Truma. So therefore, if you can feed the chaz of a shaykh, the Truma is also the Raisa. From this case over here, you see the Truma can't be the Raisa. Why? Because he says, if you got chulin and truma in a basket, in front of him, truma is soft, truma for chulin, we're going to say, even though it's a 50-50 chance, if it's the chulin, it's great. And if the truma, it's the rabbanan. And even if you don't have the ratio, you won't need it. So obviously you see, truma is the rabbanan. And for the Gemara, no, that's not. Hamani, who is the Tana of this brisa? The Tana of this brisa is in fact the rabbanan who argue in Rabbi Yossi on the days. But Ananda Amri, I said my opinion. The Mishnah is according to Rabbi Yossi. Guys, the Mishnah clearly is according to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says in the Mishnah that an androgynous is what? An androgynous feeds is Michael Truma. He's the one. Guys, take a look. Pay Aleph from an Aleph. Pay Aleph from an Aleph. Sris Chama, Kayin, Shinasa Bas Yisrael, Machila B'Truma. Rabbi Yossi, Reb Shimon Oimrim, androgynous Kayin, Shinasa Bas Yisrael, Machila B'Truma. So obviously, why? Because he holds that what? It's a Zacha. So he holds it's the Raisa, because he learned Pshat in that you could feed the Chazal B'Shaik as well in Rabbi Yossi. So very geschmack. I said my din according to Rabbi Yossi. That din by the Shtei Kupis is according to the Rabbanan. Very good. Back by us. The Tanya B'Seida Oilam. Seida Oilam is a series of brises speaking about leading the history of the world. It says two Yerushas, guys. Yorshu Avasecha v'Yerashta. Yerusha Rishina, that Yeshua came in and was Magdash the land, Ushnia, and the second one, Yesh Lahem. In other words, the first Kedusha was Batal. Therefore, then you needed a second Kedusha when they came back with Ezra. For Shlishis, the third one after Agolus, Ein Lahem. You don't need a Yerashta. Why? Because it's not Batal. Right? Look at Rashi, guys. The little Shlishis Ein Lahem, Kleimar. Loiboil Mahada Umirsa. You don't have to go ahead and capture it. The Yerusha Imedasi, because the Yerusha is standing there. Mashmin and Haikra, the light butler Kedushas Aretz, the Golas Titus. But the Golas of Titus, the final Golas that we're in, the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael wasn't batal. And who's the Tan of Seder Olam, guys? Rabbi Yossi. So you see, Rabbi Yossi holds that Truma is the Raisa. From Rabbi Yochanan back inside, Man Tan of Seder Olam, Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi, okay. Rabbi Yossi holds that Truma what is the Raisa, because he says what you see from here, he says the Golas of Titus you would not need to magdish it again. And he says in a Mishnah that you could feed. So you have a raya that Rabbi Yossi holds the Raisa. I said my din Rabbi Yossi. The question from the two Shtei Kupos was according to the Chachamim who held it was the Rabbanan. And therefore, since it's the Rabbanan, okay. Now, let's go through the mechanics again. Like Rabbi Yochanan, what's the two possibilities? The Chulin fell in the Chulin, you're good. The Truma, you're good. What happens if the Chulin fell in the Truma, or the Truma, right? Then you don't need Bittul, because it's only the Rabbanan. We're going to question that fact. Fred the Gemara Kasha. The sub Rabbi Yochanan b'Rabbanan loy bein and riboy. Does Chacham say the Rabbanan you not need riboy? V'tanan mikvah sheyesh ba 40 sa mechuvanos. You got a mikvah with 40 sa. Guys, that's an exact mikvah. It's a kosher mikvah, but it's exact. The mikvah has 40 sa. Nasin sa, you could put in a sa of May Paris. Guys, you could put in something that would not be machshir or mikvah. You can put in fruit juice. You can put in raisin wine. You can put in maim she'uvim. You can put this stuff in v'notel sa and take out a sa. So at one point you have 41, then you take out a sa and you have 40. Kasha, it's kasha. From Rabbi Yehuda bar Shila, Rav Asi, Rabbi Yochanan, ad ruba. That's provided you have 20. In other words, you need at least 20 of 21 versus 19. You need 21. You need a roiv. My lav nishtaya ruba does not mean that you left with 21, because if you had less than 21, you wouldn't say bittul. This is a din derabanan, and you see you need bittul derabanan. That's the kasha, guys. When you see that that we're going to let you this mikvah, the mikvah is going to go ahead and only be a mikvah if you go ahead and up until roiv. But past roiv not means that we were being soimich on a din rabbanon for to be nullified. I said by you don't. So you see over here you do. Says Gemara, no, delay nishkal rubai. 20 and 20 works. In other words, you can't have less than 20 of the mikvah, but in other words, you don't need 21. 20 would also do the job, so you don't need roiv. So once you don't need roiv, you see that he holds with rabbanon, you don't need roiv. Be by Yisema, a whole different teretz. Forget about roiv. Shani hacha diklamem shani omer. In other words, by the rabbanon will be makel. We'll take our chances with the statistics. Since statistically I can say shani omer that the chulin fell in the chulin and the truma in the truma, I'll say it's okay since it's the rabbanon. Since the truma is the rabbanon, I'll say it's okay. So you don't have, in other words, we thought that you don't need bittul. No, it has nothing to do with bittul. But we soymich on the shani omer. The reason why you could eat a zor could eat the chulin pile is because shani omer, that the chulin fell in the chulin and the truma fell in the truma, and we're not going on to bittul at all. In the Havamina, we're saying that what we're coming on to bittul. In the Teretz, we're saying we're not coming on to bittul. We're going statistically 50-50, and we're saying shani omer, it's going to work. Tanan, androgynous noisei, an androgynous can marry a woman, right? Kasha on Reish Lakish. Like Reish Lakish, you hold an androgynous as a suffix, you don't know what it is, right? How could you marry a woman? Maybe you're a woman, right? Okay, weiter. Im Nasai, right? After the Gemara Tani, Im Nasa. Don't learn noisei that you could marry. Learn Nasa if you did marry. B'di'evet. B'di'evet. But in Nasa, Weinrib, can you focus on something else besides that? I have to throw you out, Weinrib. You look at them. Okay, anyway. Tana in Nasa. Right, so learn in Nasa. Don't say noisei you could get married, but in Nasa, if you do get married, then you have to give a get. Fred Gemara by noisei, Ketani mashma, you could get married. Says Gemara, Reish Lakish says, well, Taimech, and according to your reasoning, my avalei nisa, but he can't be married to a man. Avalei nisa can't be married to a man. Elamai nisa, it must be the eved, meaning if you do get married to a man. So noisei nami the eved, if you as the man marry a woman. So I'm like. Noisa lechatchila mashma. Noisa is mashma lechatchila, that the androgynous could marry lechatchila as a zachar. As a zachar could marry lechatchila. Avaloi nisa the eved nami loy. But the loy nisa is not the eved, also the eved not. No, it's loy nisa, period. You can't get married to a man. You as a man can get married to a woman, but period, you can't get married to a man. Okay, that's in other words, we're saying unequivocally that the Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yochanan that an androgynous is a zachar. He's a zachar, and therefore, since he's a zachar, he can marry a woman, but he can't marry another man. Fred the Gemara the following: in the Seifa of the Mishnah, it says, Rebbe Eliezer Omer, androgynous chayav malav skila kizachar. An androgynous is with another man, you would mean chayiv skila. In other words, Rebbe Eliezer is saying the androgynous is another man. Mechal the Tanakama, Sluki Mesafkale. Mechal the Tanakama, it's a suffix. In other words, this is the Kashan Rabbi Yochanan. Guys, let's outside. How do we get into this? Rabbi Yochanan said that you could feed, the Mishnah says you can feed what? Truma. Now, Bishleim, if you hold like Reish Lakish, that it's a suffix and the Truma is the Rabbanon, I have Peshat in the ratio of the Mishnah. But if you're going to tell me the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan and you're feeding Truma deraisa because this guy is a full-fledged Zacha, how do you explain Rebbe Eliezer arguing on the Tanakama? Because clearly Rebbe Eliezer says it's a full-fledged Zaka. Because he says you'll be chayiv for Mishkav Zaka, you'll be chayiv for homosexuality if he's with another Zaka. Mashma that the Tanakama does not know. Tanakama is disagreeing with Rebbe Eliezer. Tanakama is saying you won't be mechayiv. So why won't you be mechayiv? Because you're not a vadei zacha. So it's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said you're a vadei zacha and you feed truma deraisa. But that question is, when Rebbe Eliezer in the Seifa of the Mishnah is stating that you be chayiv mishkav zacha, he's the one saying that he's a zacha. Masmer Tanakama, that's not mechayiv mishkav zacha, would hold it to suffix. So now it's a kasha on Rebbe Yochanan. We turned the tables from Reish Lakish. That's the kasha. And for the Gemara, no. Bein lemar mifshet pshitale. Sai according to Reish Lakish to Tanakama. Sai according, that's Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, and Sai according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's pashut that it's a zachar. So what's the machloikis then between Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Eliezer vis-a-vis mishkav zachar? It could be nayu skila mishtei mekaymis, whether you get skila from both places. In other words, there's two places on an androgynous. There's the female part of the androgynous. And then there's the part, the backside, which usually is a problem when mishkav zacha by another man. So that's called the zachris. The Indian mishkav zacha, the backside is called the zachris, and the female part would be like any other female. So if you're with the androgynous is with a zachar, is with an androgynous, is he chayiv on both parts or only one? And that's the machlokes. The Tanakama holds you be chayiv for either one. You be chayiv for the female part and you be chayiv for the male part. And comes along Rabbi Eliezer and says, no, you only chayiv if you go ahead and have bia with the male part, as I state in the Gemara. It could be nayu skila mishtei mekaymis. The Masava, the Tanakama holds, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon holds, chayav malav skila mishtei mekaymis. You be chayiv skila from both places. Umasava and Rabbi Eliezer holds kiz zachar. Rabbi Eliezer says no, only if it be zachus in the part that's a zachar, but not in the female part. That would be the machlokes between the two. Okay, Be'ez Hashem. Here's the